On a hot and humid evening in the small Nigerian village of Ibadan, John, a local fisherman, was eager to catch some fish for his family. Recent times had been tough, and his usual fishing spots hadn't been fruitful. After another unsuccessful day, as he walked home, he passed by the path leading to the forbidden river on the village edge. Villagers avoided the river, believing it was cursed and haunted. However, John wondered if those were just superstitions. Maybe the forbidden river had plentiful fish because no one dared disturb them. After some internal debate, John decided to try his luck there at night. He thought if he was careful and quiet, no one would know he went against village taboos. As dusk fell, John took his fishing spear and woven basket and headed for the forbidden river. He walked along the overgrown path, swatting away flies and mosquitoes. The full moon provided enough light to see without stumbling over roots and rocks. At the riverbank, John was struck by the serene and beautiful surroundings. The water sparkled under the moonlight, and lush plants lined the banks. He heard frogs and insects. Maybe there were no evil spirits here, he thought. Sitting on a flat rock, he cast his fishing spear into the shallows. Soon, he was reeling in one large fish after another. By the time the moon was high, he had enough for several meals. Pleased with his decision, John decided to head home before sunrise. As he gathered his things, a melodic voice called out from the water. "Hello there, leaving so soon?" John, nervous, peered at the river. Hello, who's there?" "Just a lonely maiden of the river," the voice replied with a splash. A beautiful woman with long flowing hair and seashells covering her breasts emerged. From the waist down, her body was that of a large fish shimmering in the moonlight. John gasped and stumbled backward. You're a mermaid," he stammered. The mermaid smiled warmly. "Yes, I am, and these waters are my home. I've been watching you fish all night. You're quite talented." John hesitated, fascinated and unnerved. "Oh, well, thank you. I should really be getting home, though." "Wait," the mermaid cried. "I so rarely get to speak with humans. Please stay and talk with me for a while." Against his better judgment, John found himself drawn to the mermaid's beauty and singing voice. He reluctantly sat back down on the rock, saying, all right, we can talk for a bit." The mermaid's face lit up, and she swam closer, resting her arms on a rock near John's feet. "Tell me about your village and your people," she requested. So, John began describing life in the village, simple mud huts, families raising goats and chickens, tending small vegetable gardens, and the daily rhythms of life dictated by the rising and setting sun. The mermaid listened intently, asking questions from time to time. John started to relax. She seemed friendly, and having someone to chat with was nice. After a while, the mermaid commented, "Your village sounds lovely, but lonely. Don't you ever wish you could leave and see the world?" John shrugged, saying, "I suppose so sometimes, but my family needs me, so this is where I belong." The mermaid swished her emerald tail lightly in the water, gazing at John with her head tilted. "You're loyal and true. I admire that in a human. What is your name?" John replied, "John." The mermaid repeated, "John, that's a lovely name." John said, "Thank you." There was a momentary pause, and John wondered if he should head home before his family woke up. Before he could make his excuses, the mermaid spoke again. "John, I have an offer for you. It gets very lonely here with only the fish for company. I believe you and I could be great friends. We got along so well talking tonight. I'd like for you to come live with me underwater and keep me company. Always." John's eyes widened. Go live underwater? Is such a thing even possible? His mind spun as he tried to process this unexpected offer from the mythical creature looking up at him expectantly. Seeing John's stunned silence, the mermaid hurried to add, "You would have access to all the fish you could ever want to eat down there. I know your village has been struggling. Here with me, you'd never go hungry again. And think of the adventures we could have. I would show you the beauty and wonder of my world. We would never be lonely again." Her words painted a tempting picture in John's mind. But how could he possibly leave his family and his entire life behind to dwell underwater? I'm flattered, John stammered, but my place is here on land with my people. Omos's face fell momentarily, her lower lip quivering. However, her features then hardened into a scowl, and her eyes bore fiercely into John's. He leaned away, suddenly recalling the sinister legends surrounding this river. I offered you a gracious gift, Omos declared, her voice now low and threatening, devoid of the earlier melodic tone. But if you will not come willingly, you leave me no choice. Before John could comprehend the situation, the mermaid angrily lashed her tail, splashing river water on him. The cold liquid made his limbs grow numb and clumsy. Despite his efforts to stand, his legs collapsed like rubber, and he fell hard onto the muddy riverbank. Omos swiftly swam toward him through the shallows, her eyes now wild and predatory, resembling those of a great white shark. John attempted to crawl away, but his arms were weak and useless. All he could do was flop helplessly as Omos grabbed him and dragged him into the water. He tried to cry out, but the river filled his mouth. The mermaid clutched John tight and dove down into the depths as the forbidden river swallowed him. Looking up, John saw the moon's light receding on the surface above. He struggled against Omos's grip, but she held him fast in her webbed hands. As they descended, John's lungs burned for air until they emerged into an underwater cavern with a small opening to the river above. Gasping for breath, John lay weak and soaked on the rocky cavern floor. Omos's wild anger seemed to have passed, replaced by calm determination. "This is my home," she declared. "Here is where you'll stay now too. We will get to know each other very well, my friend." John, trying to comprehend the situation, recognized the mermaid's powers and magic. He decided to play along, pretending to cooperate, until he could formulate an escape plan. Over the next several days, John remained trapped in the underwater cavern with Omos. The mermaid brought him fish and river plants to eat and tried to engage him in conversation about his childhood and life in the village. John gave short, vague answers, not wanting to encourage her fantasy of friendship. During Omos's absences, John searched desperately for an escape or a weapon, but found nothing, only bare stone walls. The opening at the top was out of reach, and even if he could reach it, he couldn't swim away fast enough to escape Omos's powers in the water. At night, while Omos slept, John continued his quest for a way out. Desperate for escape, John attempted to rub sticks together, hoping to create a fire that could distract Omos with smoke and flames. Unfortunately, the sticks remained stubbornly unlit. Exhausted and disheartened, John eventually passed out on the cold stone floor. About a week after his capture, he awoke to find Omos watching him closely, her face inches from his own. Startled, John jerked back, his heart pounding. "I've waited so long for a companion," Omos said wistfully, "one who does not flee or try to hurt me when I reveal myself, one who will embrace this life with me under the water." John held his breath, unsure if this was the end. Would she kill him now for rejecting her repeated offer of friendship? Instead, Omos sighed, "In time, you will accept your place here. The river provides all our needs. You'll see. This is where you belong." Suppressing his revulsion, John inwardly recommitted to finding a way out. He would rather die than let the mermaid keep him prisoner forever. The days blurred together as John's despair grew, with no apparent opportunities for escape. Omos always watched him closely, and John's skin grew pallid and weak from the lack of sunlight, his clothes rotting off his body. After nearly 2 months in the underwater prison, an opportunity finally arose. Omos swam away one evening on one of her extended hunting trips, often gone for hours. John, fearing he might permanently lose his strength and will to escape, decided he had to seize this chance. Despite weakened muscles, he managed to scoot and roll himself over the cavern floor toward the opening at the top. Gripping the rocky sides, he painfully hauled himself up until his head and shoulders breached the surface of the river. The night air felt wonderfully cool and fresh on John's skin as he emerged from the water, blinking in the darkness. The moon was just a tiny sliver in the sky, and John knew he had to make his escape quietly, without splashing or making a sound. Struggling, he pulled himself from the water and onto the muddy bank, every movement fueled by the fear of returning to the underwater prison. Free from the water at last, John crawled on hands and knees away from the river's edge. In the moonless darkness, he had to navigate blindly through thick vegetation, enduring scratches from thorns and threats from sharp roots and bushes. After what felt like hours, he reached a wider dirt path that seemed familiar, though he couldn't recall why. Determined to put as much distance as possible between himself and the mermaid, John stumbled on, ignoring the pain in his limbs. As the pale dawn light crept over the horizon, the dirt path became more recognizable. The thatched roofs of village homes came into view, and with his last bit of strength, John staggered into the village center. Villagers getting water from the well and tending to animals froze in shock at the sight of the mud-caked, emaciated, naked man. A woman dropped her buckets, exclaiming, "John, my son, you've returned!" She ran to him, embracing him warmly. John felt the comfort of her embrace as he let the darkness take him into unconsciousness. Upon awakening weak but recovering in his mother's hut, John recounted the tale of Omorose, the mermaid, and her river prison. The villagers listened in horrified silence, realizing the danger that had nearly befallen one of their own. John's mother held his hand, tears glistening in her eyes at the thought of losing her only son. By the time John finished his tale, the entire village was in an uproar. They decided immediate action must be taken against the mermaid before she posed a threat to anyone else. Men gathered torches, nets, fish spears, and knives, with John leading the way. Determined, they marched toward the forbidden river, intent on finding Omose's cavern prison and putting an end to her. Approaching the river cautiously, John warned of the mermaid's strength and speed. The men searched the banks carefully until John recognized the cavern's opening, hidden in the reeds. Several men prepared to dive down, torches held high in one hand and spears in the other. Before they could leap into the water, an unearthly shriek echoed through the air, causing them to cover their ears. Omose's head and shoulders emerged from the cavern entrance, her grotesque mouth open wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Her wild eyes found John standing with the villagers on the bank, and she screamed in rage and betrayal. "You will pay for your defiance," she roared. "I offered eternal friendship, yet you betray me." Terrified by the monstrous creature, the men staggered back, but John stood firm, supported by the villagers. "Your friendship is bondage," he cried. "You offer only loneliness and despair." With surprising speed, Omos shot from the water, clawing toward John. However, two men were ready with nets, flinging the weighted ropes over the mermaid and pinning her to the bank before she could reach John. Omos thrashed and wailed but could not break free. John, trembling but resolute, stepped toward the captured mermaid, raising a fishing spear above her heart. Omos's wild eyes followed the weapon's point as it hovered above her. "This ends now," John said quietly, driving the spear down with all his strength. The mermaid released a final, ear-splitting shriek, then fell silent and still. The men carried her lifeless body back to the village, where it was burned on a pyre. John watched the flames consume the creature that had held him captive for so long. In the days that followed, John regained his strength, surrounded by the support of his family and village. The people celebrated his return and the defeat of the mermaid's curse. John resumed fishing, avoiding the forbidden river, never forgetting the evil lurking beneath its waters. The mermaid Omorose would not haunt his people again. Her lonely spirit was banished, allowing the villagers to live in peace along the river's edge. And so, the fisherman returned safely home, escaping the clutches of the evil mermaid. Although she tempted him with promises of friendship and provisions, he knew such gifts always come with a price. In the end, evil cannot help but show itself. But with courage and community, darkness can be overcome and light will rise again. If you have watched this far, I appreciate your support. If you have enjoyed watching this content, don't forget to like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you can be notified about more upcoming videos like this one. Thank you for watching and take care.